Welcome to another week of NASCAR Inside the Playoffs. I'm Shannon Spake, and the elimination race at Bristol was certainly one for the ages if you drove the 5-car. We're going to catch you up on all that went down at the last great Coliseum. Plus, the Cup Series heads to Kansas for the 4th race of the playoffs, and on our last visit to this mile-and-a-half, we saw the closest finish in Cup Series history. Will it happen again? We're going to have to wait and see. Plus, 12 drivers will take on 3 very different tracks for this round of the playoffs. We've got all the insider info on who to watch. It's all next on NASCAR Inside the Playoffs. The Bristol night race is in the rear view and the round of 12 straight ahead. We're here to go inside the playoffs. I'm Shannon Spake. He's NASCAR insider Mamba Smith. Of course, both Daytona 500 winners. We've got Jamie McMurray in the house, so nothing is going to be boring here today. And Steve Letarte back with us. We missed you last week.
Well, I hated to not be here, but I got my little girl delivered to college. She's all checked in, so now I'm back to work. So you got to, pay for that college.
You made me feel like I'm exciting and they're boring.
No, it's just I'm excited to see you.
Oh, I like that.
I haven't seen you in a while. I haven't worked with you. However, if you guys do know this, Jamie McMurray, he's a huge Kyle Larson fan. He will always pick Kyle Larson to win the race. So you must have really enjoyed
Well, I'm going to tell you, my record's pretty good. I'll say that right now.
It is. Really, did you enjoy the butt whooping?
Yeah, I like the race. I think you have to appreciate, especially if you're a driver, when someone's able to put together an entire weekend that way. If Larson could have just sat on the pole, it would have been a complete sweep of the weekend. But it was pretty incredible to see how quick the 5-car was.
They were super fast. They deserved it. They dominated. But I will say that I am glad that that's not the norm. I feel like back in the day, we used to see that a lot. Guys just would leave the rest of the field, and it was too frequent. And now the field's a lot closer, so that doesn't happen. So it's a nice change of pace, Steve, when somebody like that goes out and dominates.
Well, I do think that while it perhaps does stink up the show, you want to tip your hat to him, right? Because if a golfer wins, going away by 10 strokes, we all talk about how impressive it was. So for Larson, I'm going to say, hey, great job. And if it wasn't in the playoffs, I would have harassed him to maybe slow down a little bit and made it more entertaining. But as a playoff race, I think what he did was impressive. And I think it kind of made him stand out of the field now as the guy everyone's chasing. Let's
talk about that in a second. Let's rewind and show you guys all how this went down out at Bristol. Saturday night, the night race at Bristol. Alex Bowman, starting on the pole, led the first 33 laps. And then, of course, the 5 took over. And that, what did you say, stink up the show? Is that what? And that's all she wrote.
Well, that really was all she wrote. But then there was a great battle when it came down to the playoffs. Who was going to advance? Who wasn't? Harrison Burton had to go behind the wall with mechanical and pit road speed. You always talk about being fast on the racetrack. Fast on pit road ended up really changing the whole complexion.
Yeah, I saw the issue for Corey LaJoie right there. Another pit road speeding penalty with Martin Truex Jr. ultimately took him out of the race and the playoffs.
I was really thinking this is at the end with Kyle. And honestly, his burnout was amazing. Him hanging out with Owen was amazing. Owen hanging out the side. You gotta love it.
I loved it.
Okay, but am I the only one that was excited for Owen to ride on the 5-car, but nervous? When he was holding onto the roof rails with his little finger, I'm like Kyle, man.
I was thinking Kyle had a hold of his leg inside of the car, making sure.
I got to talk to Caitlin Larson this week, and she, the racer that she is from a racing family, she was like, I loved it. I thought he was maybe going to damage the race car, though. It was a butt whooping, right? 462 laps led. What do you think about that average running position there, Mom?
That is, I don't know. I can't really be much better than that. 1.11. I guess he was only not there for 34 laps, and that was it. See you later. Bye.
We should thank Alex Bowman for qualifying her. It would have been a 1.0.
Yeah, all right.
So
I think that when we look at the playoffs so far, Kyle Larson's kind of been quiet, but not anymore. I mean, he has woken everybody up.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like his year, though, really like almost anyone. I don't know that anyone has dominated the year. There's been times throughout the season that you're like, this is the guy. It was Christopher Bell at one point. Obviously, Larson, though, is getting hot at the right time. And I know we'll talk about Kansas in a little bit, but to have a dominant performance like he did at Bristol and then head to Kansas, I just think the momentum is clearly all on the 5 side.
There was one standard racetrack in the first round, Atlanta being drafting, Watkins Glen being a road course, one standard racetrack. And the guy who, while he hasn't dominated the finishing positions all year, I think he has dominated the speed chart. I think the 5 has the most raw speed. And this is what happens when they don't have any sort of hiccup.
Yeah, their whole problem this year hasn't been speed. It's been execution, not getting in wrecks, Kyle maybe pushing, but Kyle is a double-edged sword. You can't slow him down because that's what makes him great. And if you try to, then it's not going to work. And
I don't think there's any way to slow him down. I mean, he's just fast and can do it anywhere that we race.
You got to let Kyle Larson be Kyle Larson, because that's how you're going to go win a championship.
But it isn't like an anomaly for the 5 team. They have won both stages and the race 6 other times throughout his career, never at a short track. And Bristol's one of his favorite tracks. I mean, he was my teammate back in 2014, 15. And Larson loved going there. And I think it really fits his driving style, because you see drivers have to move around a little bit. The one thing that I heard Larson say after the race, and Chase Elliott, was Larson was like, I got through traffic really well.
Right.
Chase Elliott made the reference. He's like, I think my car was as good as Kyle's. I just couldn't get through traffic as well. I would give a little bit of that to Kyle's background, being in the sprint cars and on the dirt tracks and having to move around a lot. He just was able to capitalize on it.
Of course, Bristol Motor Speedway, a half-mile racetrack. So once you get going, if you lead all those laps, you are going to be passing so many race cars. And Kyle Larson did it, made history in doing that. He's going to add his name to this list. Take a look at this. So Cale Yarborough led every lap back in 1973. So we go back to 1973, and here is a list of drivers who are Hall of Famers, right? That you're looking at right here. You know the 2001. You were part of that team, right, Steve?
Yeah, I was. I was part of that team, and we're thankful it wasn't the 500. I think Jeff would have led 481 of 500, but it was a fun day, much like that day that Larson had with Bristol. Dover's the same way. You got to figure out that track.
The one thing that sticks out to me when I look at that graphic is that this has been happening for 50 years. This wasn't the first time it's happened. It's happened in every era, every generation of car that we've had. You see that every once in a while, somebody hits on it and gets it all together.
The craziest thing for me is that he's done it. He's led the most, dominated the biggest race out of Hendrick. He's led the most laps.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's crazy. The drivers that they've had and the excellence that they've had, and he's now on top of that.
Were you guys bored at Dover when Jeff was leading all those laps?
Well, you're never bored when you're in the race. No, it was great. You kidding me? When you're on the team that's leading, you think it's amazing. Now, if I was part of one of the other teams, probably not so much.
That's right. And Kyle Larson came out this week, and he defended, Saturday night at Bristol. Of course he does.
Well, why would he defend? So here's the problem I have. Was it a great race? Not for me. There wasn't a lot of passing inside the top 5.
What stuck out to you, though, that you were like,
a lack of options. I needed, not Larson. I'm fine with the 462 laps led. The frustration I had, and I wonder, I've heard a lot of talk about its place within the playoffs, because so many playoff drivers just needed to have good nights.
Yep.
So their risk, there was not a lot of reward for the risk, but I saw a lot of drivers get to, say, 7th, and either A, had no options to go forward, or B, were okay with running 7th, right? And that's okay at times, because remember, advance. We've reset the playoffs. It didn't matter. If you were good enough to advance, job well done.
I also think that some of that is because, like the 19 of Martin Truex Jr. and the 54 of Ty Gibbs, they both had issues relatively early, and then they didn't make their way back up through. So it really opened the door for everyone else to kind of hold pat where they were.
I think the reason there has been so much turmoil about was this a good race is because we always try to manage our expectations coming in, and we had chaos in the first race.
That's right.
And a lot of that was unexpected. The teams didn't know that. I think if you could go back and run the March race over again, and everyone knew, hey, around lap 40, we might have to pit.
Totally.
Versus staying out on the racetrack and hoping you could draw a caution. The expectation coming into this was, they're bringing the same tire back. We're going to have the exact same race, and we didn't. But I would challenge anyone to go back and look at last year. If you look at the March race, there was a little bit of tire wear, and then when we got to the fall race, there wasn't. And it's because it's a little bit warmer. You have the trucks on the track. You have Xfinity Series. So I would say that I wasn't completely surprised, but I liked the race because I know there were hard options for the drivers trying to find, to get that track position. But there was a top, a middle, and a bottom groove on the racetrack, and Larson showed if you had a good car, you could get back up to the front.
Well, let me add that we're also coming off from a great finish at Daytona with Harrison Burton and breakthrough win. We had Briscoe at Darlington. We had chaos at Atlanta. We had sparks flying at Watkins Glen. So, it wasn't a bad race. It was just a little bit less than the 4 leading up to it.
Yeah, and the Bristol expectations, I think, regardless of what kind of racing we've seen over the years, is that Bristol's going to be exciting. It's the night race at Bristol. There's so many expectations. Expectations also for drivers who are hoping to advance into the round of 12, and a lot of those guys didn't. Four drivers did have to go home, of course, in the playoffs. Let's take a look at the playoff leaderboard, playoff standings after the reset. We'll pull that up right now. There you go. Kyle Larson back on top, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick. I think it's interesting when you look at a guy like Joey Logano, who started these playoffs, won the race at Atlanta, knew that he was moving on to the next round, and now he is in a situation where he must go out there and perform just for the good.
Yeah, he needs to do the same thing that he did in the last round and this round, because I don't think they have the pace as some of the competitors. The 12 of Ryan Blaney in his camp, they seem to have a little bit more, but he needs to do the same thing and go out and steal one early so he can kind of settle in.
You think that that's the case, or could he just point his way in? Does he have to
There's
steal
no
one?
doubt the best race to win in any round of the playoffs is the first one, because you can relax a little bit and then start working on the first round of the next playoffs. The 22 car, though, and I would go back to what I said just a little bit ago, it just seems like no one is consistently good. And you have guys that have some ups and downs. The 22 team, I think, has run okay this year. They haven't been one of those teams that you have picked, though, as a championship favorite. I would say that winning at Atlanta clearly is what got them through. But as you look at that round, the way that they performed, it wasn't to the level that they want to be at or where they need to be to make it through this next round.
But Joey wasn't the best car when he won the championship. He was just able to advance to the championship 4 and be the best in that final race.
Yeah, he was the best when it mattered the most. And I really think you alluded to the 4 drivers that are now eliminated. So we have Harrison Burton down there and Brad Keselowski. Maybe a lot of people didn't have those guys advancing, but Martin Truex Jr. and Ty Gibbs were in a lot of people's brackets advancing through. And I think that's like cold water in the face to Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney.
You said that week 1.
All of these guys, it's one thing to, what's going to happen in 3 weeks. Well, then it happens. Now you show up this week and there's 4 drivers with no more yellow on the windshield, no more yellow spoilers. They're out of the playoffs, and it becomes very real. And unlike the first round where we started at Atlanta, now you kind of get the, quote, standard track of Kansas first. So to your point, Jamie, about it being the most valuable, if you mess up the track you're supposed to be good at, oh boy, go to Talladega and Roval to try to make up points, that's a tall task.
The round 1 was about executing. Don't beat yourself. We talked about it all throughout round 1. I feel like this round is about aggression. Like, you got to be aggressive and take your shot, because there's guys that you're not going to be able to just point your way in. The guys left are really good and they're really fast.
So I did completely on the opposite side for him. So if I was crew chiefing these guys, I wouldn't let the emotion of the second round get you. I think if you go run in the top 10 of each race, score stage points in 4 or 5 of the 6 stages, if you end up scoring 80 or 90 points, then you're going to advance. And I think, don't. Chase Briscoe did it. He tripped early and recovered. Please don't trip early. Let's not go to Kansas and end up in the hook.
Yeah, they have to capitalize. However they do that, they have to capitalize. There's someone that's sitting here who's capitalized in some of the biggest races out there. We'll give you a little credit, Jamie. How about that? Yeah, there you are, like a little bit. Let's remind you what Jamie McMurray has won in his career, right? His first win was at Charlotte Motor Speedway. That was in, what, your second start, Jamie?
It was my second start.
Daytona 500 win, of course, the Brickyard win. You're paying for dinner tonight, buddy. All-Star win. You got dinner.
Well, what year were you born, Mamba?
1992, my friend.
You're older than I thought that you were.
I didn't cocoa think, butter.
I didn't think Mamba was born when I won that first race. He kind of joked around about maybe some of the younger generation not remembering those. But it was super special to get to have those moments, those memories of being in victory lane, and clearly at some of the bigger races, it's. Yeah, super special.
You know what I love about hosting this show and having one-off guests is that we could always bring back the memories. Speaking of young, Jamie McMurray, oh boy.
Oh,
Mamba, is that cocoa butter in his hair?
There's a lot of cocoa butter.
That's not cocoa butter.
Wow, but you are feeling it, Jamie, in that picture.
Jamie, this picture, that car, I have that car, the diecast, because that was like, what, your rookie year?
I don't know, let me tell you something. That hair, people like to make fun of that.
I'm
still proud of that hair.
So for the record, I'm sitting over here jealous of it. That stuff is plush.
If I wasn't married, I'd probably still have that hair, but my wife won't allow it anymore. So I'm going to stick with what I have.
Oh, man.
A little bit. You have a little bit of spikiness.
It's all natural now, Shan.
Was it sun-in, or was it lemon, or was it?
I believe, if I'm being honest, I believe there was some sun-in involved in that, but there might have been some hair pulled through a cap at one point as well.
Boy.
So you don't know what that
Did you get a discount? You and Dale Jr. go together?
Dale Jr., he had that too. He did. He went like straight platinum though. I just kind of kind of.
I got nothing.
Corey LaJoy did
You've
it
got
because
nothing.
of you
Hey,
guys.
listen, you guys pull up pictures of me back at the time of that, and it's going to be just as bad. We've got much more to come here on Inside the Playoffs. Take a look at this. We're going to talk about some of the guys that advanced that maybe people didn't expect to see in the round of 12. These guys will weigh in on that. There's one. Mamba's on the Chase Briscoe fan club right now. We'll be right back.
Playoffs in every sport is survive and advance.
Austin Cindric came to the rescue with a big shove for Blaney.
Cindric will lead the field, wins his third stage in 2024.
Man, they have made the most out of their playoff opportunities. Suarez gets a great jump. He will take the lead.
Suarez doesn't win, but he scores points. Daniel Suarez, you surprised me, my man.
The Chicago street race winner. More valuable points to consolidate his spot.
This is quite a feather in the cap for Alex Bowman. The naysayers are going to have to drop back and punt on this one.
Chase Briscoe, real gutty performance there to go and advance the playoffs.
That's what we needed to do, right? Score stage points, run good in the race, and we were able to do that.
It's survive and advance, and that's what Chase Briscoe did. Congrats to those guys.
Maybe it was your handshake there that gave them some good luck.
Oh, Bowman?
Yeah, maybe, right?
Yeah, either that or we've been getting some time in on the Lake Norman.
Oh.
So, that might be
Okay,
helpful.
well, I mean, maybe all the guys need to go out with Mamba on the lake. How about this? Maybe you just give these guys a little luck for trivia. We'll join you in.
okay.
I'll do a little trivia, a little playoff trivia, everybody. Okay, what driver is that exciting? I was trying to be like, that's
loved it.
my game show host voice.
I was told there'd be no test, but go ahead.
Okay, it's you're not even going to lose anything or win anything. What driver advanced after being 21 points below the cut?
Chase Briscoe.
Yeah, we all know that.
Okay.
Driver, I actually think Watkins Glen was the driver of the playoffs. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, that was easy. See,
No
test.
buzzer out here, America.
I know.
We're
It's
just running it in.
Let's do the voices, or I'll do the buzzer. What driver has the most top 10s this season?
Tyler Reddick.
No. Ding, 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 ding. You got it. That's good.
He said no, and he's like, wait, no, I know that was right.
Hey, what?
Okay. All right. That was, which beginner's luck. Which driver has the most wins in the history of the round of 12?
Kyle Larson.
Nope.
Does it have to be a playoff driver?
Yeah, it is a playoff driver. Which driver has the most wins?
Joey Logano.
He's
You see that, Steve?
looking over
Make
my
that font
shoulder.
It's
smaller.
really it's a bad question because I guarantee someone else has more playoff wins in there, but they're just not currently in the playoffs.
You don't get to make the rules, Steve.
Well,
okay?
the question
It's her
should be
game.
more specific.
We'll get that for you next time. In playoff history, who is the only driver not to advance after being seeded in the top 3 in the round of 12?
Jimmy Johnson.
I don't know. That was a long.
It is a long
history?
question. You don't even remember
I'm
what
not even going to take
it's
a stab
like,
at that.
I mean, I don't know. I just threw Jimmy Johnson
they're
in the playoffs.
They're
so
in right
much.
now?
Yeah, it's Kyle Larson. I don't even remember what I said. It's like the menu
that
at the
makes
Cheesecake
sense.
Factory. It's just too long. You forget
a
what's
lot
at the
of
beginning.
menu.
Who is the only driver to finish top 10 in all 6 stages of the round of 16?
Alex Bowman.
Good job, because you gave him the handshake. There you go. We all win. We all win.
He didn't win anything on that. just to be
No,
honest.
we win the handshake.
You don't get any?
No, I don't think I got it.
None?
Well, I couldn't buzz in front of you. Apparently, I don't have I don't have driver reaction time. I'm
For
just a
once,
creature.
Steve was speechless. Let's take a look at the playoff
Get up, Steve. You ain't hurt.
Dang.
The playoff bubble. So what are guys fighting for right now, trying to make their way in? These are the guys that are right around that bubble point. You've got Austin Cindric, Daniel Suarez, Alex Bowman, and Chase Briscoe below the line, and you can see the guys below. Interesting. Remember, Joey Logano was locked in the entire round of 16 because of that win at Atlanta. I want to start with Chase Briscoe, right? Because I think a lot of people did not expect him to advance or even make the playoffs, right? He has that big win at Darlington. Stewart Haas Racing is closing their doors at the end of the season. I talked to Drew Blickensturfer, who's one of the crew chiefs at Stewart Haas Racing. He said the entire organization is feeling the surge of Briscoe making the playoffs. So this is really big. And I want to raise your hand if you guys had him advancing to the round of 12.
I hate participation.
No?
games.
I did.
I think you did, because you
I don't
you believe in him, right?
I believe in momentum. I believe in the sports gods pushing
he's
him
got
through.
it.
I think he's got it going on right now.
Is that something you believe in if you're on top of that pit box?
Well, you're going to have to find something to believe in, and I think they have something driving them that no other organization does, and that is the team closing all the men and women at Stewart Haas. That's their thing. But, sports it doesn't care. Doesn't care what your motivation is. Doesn't care what your momentum is. He's going to have to show up and pull it off. What they have to find is whatever they had at Watkins Glen. Because, like I said, I believe that was the drive of the playoffs. They showed up below the cut line and fought their way through. I'd be shocked if they could do it again.
I would say Daniel Suarez was a surprise for me because where he started, I mean, he just had an awful weekend at Bristol. Where he started,
way to emphasize that.
awful weekend at Bristol, but he made it.
You giving the team the pep talk after that?
Let's go, Daniel Suarez.
I would tell you, I mean, like as I look at Suarez, just his season, not just the round, the last round, but Atlanta really made his whole year. You think about the win at Atlanta earlier this year, got him into the playoffs, and then the first race in this round, he's able to score a lot of stage points, got a great finish again. I mean, it really is, he capitalized on that race. But it's been a little bit up and down, and I see this round as being a big challenge for him. The Roval has not been a good track for Suarez. He finished 27th at Kansas, where we're heading this weekend in the spring race earlier this year. And then Talladega, I mean, clearly he'll be a guy that could possibly win when you get to Talladega. But he could also get wrecked early on and not get any points. So I think this will be a tough round for him.
Cindric is up next, making it to the round of 12. What do you think about that?
Well, I think he performed to the ceiling of the 2-car, a couple tenths and a 13th, and that should not be, overlooked. That was enough to advance. My fear for Cindric is, will it be enough to advance? Because I think a couple tenths and a 13th would be a great round of 12 for the 2-team. But with Blaney and Elliott and Byron and all these other names, do just inside the top 10, I'm not sure that's enough firepower.
Bowman,
he's found something. They found some magic, and maybe they galvanized after all the talk of him being out of this ride.
Right.
But he's got it going on. Here's some stats for you. Okay, he led playoff drivers with 120 points scored in that last round. He was the only driver to score stage points in all 6 of the stages in that round, and he is
the only driver to not have problems in the playoffs,
he has
right?
had a clean.
Well, so the $1 million question then is, advancing positive now so far below the cut line, Jamie, as a driver, can you keep the momentum going, or do you look at the standings and you're like, all for naught?
Yeah, I would tell you that I hope he does, because all of the talk leading into the playoffs was about him maybe getting replaced. I think he shut a lot of people up here by the performance that he was able to put together. He's also with clearly one of the best organizations, Hendrick Motorsports, that just dominated the race at Bristol. He's had a good round. But this is a challenge, and I say that because of Talladega. You just don't ever know what's going to happen there. But he did win at Chicago. We're going to go to the Roval, so he could put together another good road course. He's good at 1.5-mile tracks. I mean, clearly he has the speed to do that. But the one word that hasn't come up here in any of our conversation, you got to have a little bit of luck.
A little bit of luck. I mean, he had luck by not getting in any issues, right? I mean, he's the one driver that didn't have any issues.
Added or created it.
Yeah.
You got a little bit of both.
All right. Well, we're going to continue to go inside the playoffs here on True TV when we get back. See you in a second.
Here we go. Momentum on the outside. Busher to the lead. Up. Larson up top.
Outside. A final try. Up.
Clash together.
Moto finish.
Green.
Gonna cross over.
To the middle here.
Huge move. Whoa!
It's gonna be a green white checker.
Larson trying to close. Busher. He's on the outside. He's in position. He's got it.
They're going to drag race to the start-finish line.
Up.
They bang sideways.
Coming to the line. I believe Busher.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on. It may be the 5. It's Larson.
Timing and scoring shows 0.000. We won!
The closest NASCAR finish ever.
Hell of a job, Larson.
It's like Lightning McQueen, right? You just had to be just hang that tongue out a little bit further across that finish line, right? Just get out.
I wondered where you were going with that.
Hey, come on. I saw the memes everywhere after the race. This is where the guys finished, the playoff drivers finished last time we were in Kansas. So you got 5 in the top 7, but you have 6 who are 20th or worse. This is not what these guys want to see when we're heading back there this week. I'm assuming that it's 2 words for these guys, right? Strong start.
Yeah, gotta have it. Gotta have it. You saw what it did for Joey Logano. He won, that first race, and he was able to get into the next round, obviously because of that. If some of these guys like a Chase Briscoe, even a Denny Hamlin, I feel like Denny needs to have a strong run to kind of take back control of these playoffs. they did what they had to do at Bristol, but it wasn't in dominating fashion, and I need to see that domination back from the 11.
I would want Gene Simmons' tongue if I was going to have a Lightning McMurray.
He's been sitting here thinking about
it. Big tongue. And I'm like, I would take Gene Simmons' tongue in a heartbeat over that. Yeah.
That's what you've been thinking about, huh? Not Kansas? Got good finishes?
Well, I was going to let Mama have his thought, and then the tongue thing came to me.
I hear you.
You want to change the subject?
Well, no. So, but I will say about Kansas is I think it's the most dangerous track because it looks simple. And there's something about Kansas, even from the TV booth, you look down, you're like, oh, it's a mile and a half. I mean, it looks kind of straightforward. The pavement's old. You think the tires are going to wear, so you're going to slip and slide. Yet, we see, and you just showed the finishing positions of all those playoff drivers. There's something about Kansas that I expect playoff drivers to dominate, but we're going to leave there with 5 names that we're like, oof. Now they have to go to Talladega and try to make something up. I don't know
that's not what you want to do.
No.
Yeah, you want to get a strong, because it can really be chaotic at Kansas. We've seen some big wrecks and we've seen some big, it's just chaotic, right? So here, take a look. We're going to walk back in history. We got 2013. Oh, Brian Vickers right there. I mean, where's,
That's as hard as you can wreck when it looks like that. Turns back into the wall. It's a bigger wreck as you can have. But Kansas over the years, guys, we've seen massive wrecks. You see right here getting loose off of turn 4. Look at the carnage. I mean, we talk about Daytona and Talladega. This place has collected Eric Almirola right here. Massive wreck where he hurt his back. You see the fire. I remember sitting there on a red flag forever. But this place has just produced some of the craziest wrecks.
That one was tough.
Yeah.
The seam.
You were in that one, right?
I was in a bunch of them. This one for sure.
One right here,
I'll tell you that. I remember this one.
Jamie, the seams really can come out and bite you because if you cross them in the corners, it can become a little hairy.
Well, part of the reason we see so many wrecks there is because you can race from the bottom to the top of the track, especially with the package we have right now. And so you have a lot of close racing.
Oh, my goodness.
Really fast racetrack. And I would tell you that this track is the perfect track for the Gen 7 car. I mean, when you think about as they designed this car, it was to make mile-and-a-half racing better with a little bit wider tires than we have, with the engine package that they have. This is the ideal place. It was designed for mile-and-a-half racetracks. I think the balance of Kansas, the surface that we have, how wide the racetrack is, the fact that you kind of run the bottom at the beginning, and then you'll see drivers start to drift up to the top towards the end to keep the momentum up. And Buescher looked like he had that race in the bag in the spring, right? Kyle Larson gets to his outside and is able to sneak by. So this is to me one of the best races that we get to have all year long.
The restarts. Okay, I mean, can you imagine being Bowman or Cindric and lining up row 6 for a green-white checker restart? You're going to be 4 wide off turn 2, trying 100%. To figure it out on the backstretch, and you could leave the backstretch. You could lose 10 points down the backstretch if you leave there without momentum.
Well, and I think as you looked at that finish, you think about Chris Buescher, who finished second to Larson in that race. That could have made his whole year. 1/1000th of a second could have put him into the playoffs. Then he wins Watkins Glen in the last round. It would have been automatically into the round of 12. 1/1000th of a second, and that could happen again this weekend. You could have somebody that barely misses out, maybe doesn't get the next 2 rounds or the next 2 races to go they want. So a lot on the line this weekend.
RFK is not hiring Jamie to be the motivation speaker either.
No, because what I saw there is that you want to be able to control your own destiny, and there's a lot of tracks where you can do that. I mean, you could get caught up in someone else's mess very easily at Kansas.
Yeah, it's carnage, as Jamie said it. Like, your guys are spread out, they're getting all they can get, and when you're doing that, you're on the edge of disaster. But if I'm someone like Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, and obviously Denny Hamlin runs good here too, I'm kind of licking my chops at this one because this is a place that is really good typically for them, and they need those points.
So the only thing I'll say is we talk about chaos at Kansas and Talladega and all those wrecks, but you mentioned Jamie winning the biggest races. The ones that get eliminated with the wrecks just didn't have it because you control it. It's up to you. You qualify well. You run up front. This isn't a bingo ball. Sometimes we talk about them like it's true luck. You do make a lot of your own luck. If you run well enough at Kansas, then Talladega won't matter.
Right.
That would be my talking point heading to Kansas.
Kansas, Talladega, and of course the Roval. A lot of guys looking to get it done in this round of the playoffs, advance to the round of 8, and then to the championship 4. We'll be right back to break down the upcoming tracks. So the 3 tracks we've been talking about in the round of 12, these are them: Kansas, Chaos, Talladega. even more chaos. And the Charlotte Roval, well, we'll see how that goes because there's making some changes to that track. But it's always exciting at the Roval, and we could put rain tires on it too as well, right?
Oh, why not?
Why not? All right, time to go Insiders. Do we like the title of this? We're going Insiders. Because Jordan Bianchi.
The second's not plural, it's just the first.
Okay.
Insiders.
Okay, and thank you, Jamie McMurray, for the English lesson, the grammar lesson. Jordan Bianchi, welcome, Jordan Bianchi, to the party.
I don't know what I'm stepping into, but here we are.
You don't. As we get ready to hit a lot of guys don't know what they're stepping into, actually, the round of 12. What are you, what should we be looking for?
Well, let me throw some stats at you from the round of 12. Some good nuggets to know. Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano have 6 wins apiece within this round, which is tops among all playoff drivers. Chase Elliott has the best average points scored, 37.3. And then on the other side of that equation, Daniel Suarez, the worst average finish, 21.4.
Oh, these guys are going like this, right?
I won't be motivational speaking for RFK, and he will be doing it for Trackhouse. Apparently.
All those numbers, my glasses started to fog up.
No, you're like, come here, give those to me. They've been fogging up the whole.
They've been bad. I'm telling you. Oh, don't make them worse.
You got to carry a little cloth in your coat.
There you go.
That's what you
maybe
do.
you can. Maybe how about his shoes? Maybe you can use his shoes.
I know.
That'd be so
nice.
No.
Oh, these though. What are they? Velvet?
Oh, yeah.
Well, they're nice.
You could
That's why I
clean
wear
your
them.
glasses on his shoes.
I gotta get a velvet jacket too. That's the way to go.
All right, let's move on. Yeah, there you go. Kansas is up first. We've already talked about that. Take us inside the numbers at Kansas.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you look at Kansas, this is a Denny Hamlin track, right? It leads all active drivers with 4 wins here. But you look ahead to this round, he doesn't do well in super speedways anymore. He is last among playoff drivers in points scored in super speedways. He's never won a race on the Roval before. Denny Hamlin needs a good run on Sunday if he's going to win that championship and move on. It's not a must-win situation for him, but is a must-perform situation for him.
Well, I had the driver that drives for Denny Hamlin, Tyler Reddick. Same thing. Not a must-win, but this is a track. Every time we go to Kansas, Reddick's name's on top of the list. I think he has to have a good run just for some momentum, right? It hasn't been a bad playoff, but it's time to kind of get out of the fray and look like a dominant car, and for that reason, I think Kansas is important.
I think you need to take those glasses off.
Those glasses are fogging up. I told you.
Steve's glasses are fogging up, right? His brain is working in overtime.
This is what happens when you work here all day. They fog up.
You want to put Jamie Mack's glasses on? Maybe these will be better. I won't. Talladega. Take us inside the numbers at Talladega. He's done.
I can't focus right now. I'm sorry. No, listen, we talk about Talladega, we talk about super speedways. What team do we always talk about? It's Team Penske, Austin Cindric, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney. No team does better in these types of tracks and these type of races than Team Penske. They execute, they plan, they work together better than anybody. And I just want you to know this about these guys. You go back to Atlanta, these 3 drivers combined to lead 50% of the laps there. And then on totality of the year, Austin Cindric and Ryan Blaney rank first and second in points scored in super speedway races. Team Penske is one of the few teams that look at super speedways as races that we can go to and can control. A lot of people feel like circumstances are out of their control there. Not Team Penske.
Okay, what about the Roval? Because circumstances are often out of control at the Roval.
Sure. Listen, we always talk about Alex Bowman being overlooked, and he is certainly overlooked at the Roval. But if you're Alex Bowman, you have to feel really good about your opportunity at the Roval. 5 times he's raced there, 5 times he's left with a top 10 finish, including a runner-up finish there. If he is in a position to move on, goes into the Roval and he needs to score points, you have to feel confident that he's going to be able to do that.
Yeah,
and some adjustments to the Roval, right?
Yeah, well, and I would just say Briscoe could be like a little bit of a surprise there. Good road racer. One thing that I want to add to, though, with Denny Hamlin is that he hasn't been good at super speedways lately.
Yeah.
But when I raced and I had like 7 or 8 that I didn't run well, I was looking forward to it because the law of averages catches up with you, and he's as good of a super speedway racer as anybody, so it could be his weekend.
Well, I will say this, though. He is still good in super speedway races. He doesn't finish well, and he has said this new car that NASCAR's introduced.
It's definitely been more of a challenge.
It has changed the game on super speedways, and the things that used to make him so well, his skill set, is no longer applies to this new car.
I thought I knew it was going to happen at Talladega. Now I'm confused. First it was Penske, now it's Denny Hamlin.
Yeah.
No,
I took my glasses off. It's all blurry anyway.
I cleaned them for you. I cleaned them for you.
Okay, all right, I put them back on.
Well, they'll probably fog up again. I mean, Denny Hamlin, it's surprising to hear that because of just how good he's been in the Daytona 500, winning those races.
I go away for 4 seconds, and you guys replace me.
Yeah, we did.
I will tell you a little hint, though. He brought some good stuff, so you could.
And good shoes.
Oh.
And good shoes. Can we get a shot of these shoes before we go to break? He's giving you a run.
Why are you petting them?
He doesn't know what to do with
soft. They're so soft. They're nice.
Don't make me tell your wife.
I'm telling you. They're A+.
Thank you, Jordan, for being here. Mamba's going to come back when we get back from break.
Steve Lectard talks a ton. Steve talks a lot. All the time. Nobody else can get a word in.
You know, I actually like Steve. Does he talk a lot?
About as much as me. He makes sense half the time. I don't think I do.
95% of the time when he talks, it's something useful that he's saying. I've golfed with him before, he talks even more.
You'd be like 2 groups behind him or in front of him, and you could just hear him. You would think he's like Scotty Scheffler.
Steve, I don't think he talks too much. He gets paid to talk.
How much does Steve talk? Well, he talks a lot. That's why he's good for the show. It's a talk show.
Well, I'm fogging up, but that's no. I mean, nobody wants a mime on a talk show. We're here to talk.
I mean, I've been pleasantly surprised with working with you. I used to have a.
Bless your heart.
Hang on.
You know what?
That was not a
Better than we
compliment.
expected.
That's what I heard.
She meant to say.
That's what I heard.
You've got a great sense of humor.
Larson, I like Larson, what Larson said. He's like, you can just hear him on the golf course. Yeah,
I feel like
that's true. That's
he was
true.
saying not only do you talk a lot, but you talk loud. That's what he was saying.
Both talk a
He's
lot
thinking he
and
can
loud.
back.
Yeah.
But that's your job. And listen, like
They are right, though. I definitely talk a lot, especially on the golf course.
Steve was like, I am not coming back next week. No,
No,
you're
I'm good
coming
with it.
back.
You kidding me?
You
Of
are
all the
definitely coming
low-hanging
back.
fruit they could have said, they were all actually pretty nice. I'll take that. That actually made me feel better about myself. That was supposed to be a shot. I'm going to leave here.
They made fun of my hair, and you're talking.
Yeah, that's right.
Blaney said
wait for
that
my turn.
95% of the time you know what you're talking about.
That's a bigger percentage than I give myself.
That's
so
pretty
I'm
good.
taking it.
That's pretty good.
All right.
I cannot wait for my turn because I know that it's coming on this show.
Yes.
It is just Hagen saving up all that stuff. All right, take a look at this. This is the bracket heading into the round of 12, kicking off, of course, this weekend at Kansas. Let's buy or sell, why don't we? Let's buy or sell the bracket, the round of 12. Steve, I think we'll start with you. What do you think?
So I'm only buying it to the round of 8, right? You're not going to make me commit all the way to the finish.
Yeah, whatever you want, my friend.
Well,
the floor is yours.
Well, look, after 95% of saying the right stuff, I'm not going to disagree with Ryan Blaney. So I'm buying Ryan Blaney for sure. No, serious. Little concern at Kansas, but super speedway and road courses, Blaney's great at both, so I'm buying Blaney. Selling, I'll stay in the Penske camp. I'm selling Cindric. I think he had a great round of 16. Look, I hope he advances, but I'm selling. I don't have him moving forward.
I am buying Chase Briscoe and another Ford. Yeah. I don't know. There's something about it.
Wait. This is the guys that are moving on.
Yeah, he's moving on.
Okay.
I'm buying it.
All right.
And I'm fringe. Maybe next week I'll say he's going to the Champ 4, but right now I think he's moving on to the round of 8. I am going to sell Joey Logano, I think.
Oh, boy.
I think I'm going to sell.
You know it's an
22
even number
stock.
year, right? And this is his year.
Yeah, that's what he's really good
Jamie's
at
not
that.
confused by the whole game of those two picks. He doesn't know what he's trying to do.
I'm only confused because I feel like Mamba could have taken a higher guy initially, right? Like for buying. Like I'm not gonna say Briscoe would make it, but Larson is obviously still available. He doesn't even have to win. He's plus 39. He can make it through with just a few good races. And I would say Cindric, I like this round for Cindric. I think that Super Speedway Talladega is a good track for him if he can get to the end, right? But Jordan talked about the Penske guys all working together. I think they could capitalize on some stage points. And then he's a good road racer. So I think this round lines up well for him.
Do you guys remember at the top of the show when I said Jamie always picks Kyle Larson?
Yeah.
Just did that.
And my record's really good.
That's why I left
My
it for
record's
him.
really good.
But do we all agree there is a name? Like we're asked to pick here. We don't know the future. But do we all agree there's a name that we all think should advance that's going to go into the Roval? No, but that's going to go into the Roval like below the cut. Like someone always trips up. Every round.
That's why it's so much fun to watch.
Totally.
Because you don't, it's unpredictable.
Who's that going to be, though? Who do you think is going to be?
So I'll tell you a driver that I think should be safe, but William Byron had a monster start of the year, but it's been really quiet over the summer, and he's had an okay playoffs, but just okay, didn't have that standout moment. Bowman scored all the points. Larson got a win. I think Byron should be okay, but, should be and is okay are two different things.
If we rewind to earlier in the year, at the beginning of the year, for sure, everyone would have had William Byron in the championship for. Everybody.
Absolutely.
Based on what happened last year and kind of how the season started. But, I mean, I talked about this a few times in this show. It's just been up and down for everybody. I mean, I don't know that there's been one guy all year long that you're like, for sure, he's my guy.
I'm still worried about Denny Hamlin.
Yeah.
To be honest. I'm still worried about that level.
Yeah,
I think it could be Denny Hamlin's year. I think the fact that he's kind of the underdog this year, or that people are doubting him. Every year up to this point, we talk about what can he do to lose it. I think it could be Denny Hamlin's year.
You want to see a TV professional? He didn't do any selling.
He
bought Larson, real general. He didn't sell. Do you notice that? He's like, oh, I'm not picking anybody out.
All right, well, how about what about Chase Elliott? We haven't even really mentioned his name, sports most popular driver, Hendrick Motorsports, and are you buying or selling?
So now she wants me to bash on the most popular guy.
At
That's
Jamie
a great
McMurray
setup
on
there,
Instagram.
But Chase Elliott, for me, when I look at him, I don't have him real high, and I certainly don't have him in the bottom. I just think he's kind of been in the middle of the road all year long, and that's where I put him at. So I don't have him as somebody that I definitely want to buy, and I don't have him as anybody I want to get rid of. I think he makes it through to the round of 8, but if it's all about being a little bit lucky or maybe not being unlucky and putting together the races at the right time.
It's crazy he says that, though, because Chase was competing for the regular season championship.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't flashy doing it, but he was there. So because he's not flashy, it's easy to
that's a good way of putting that, I think.
It's easy to kind of put him down below, but I think he's been doing exactly what he needs to do.
Well, even this weekend at Bristol, I mean, he ran second, but I didn't really pay attention to him the whole race, right?
That's right. That's right.
I have Chase Elliott in my Champ 4.
You do.
I think back to the Logano. No, I'm thinking the Logano.
Well, he was nice to you on that.
He was really nice to him in that segment.
I tell you, he was. But no, think about the Logano year. He was just consistent, and then he went from consistent to great and won a championship. Yeah. And I think Chase, he is forgettable. Well, you're doing something right when you're forgettable in second or forgettable in fifth. I mean, he had so many top 20s until him and Suarez got into it at the Chicago Street Course. I think he can make the Champ 4 without a win. Now, I don't think he can win the championship without being able to win, so we'll have to see that. But I think he's just going to be steady Eddie right through the playoffs.
That's a conversation about the guys that are moving on. Let's have a conversation about the guys who are not moving on, the eliminated drivers who were eliminated at Bristol, because I think that there's some disappointments here. We got 2 past champions. We got 2 guys competing for the very first time. Harrison Burton, obviously, a surprise winner at Daytona. We knew that was going to be a challenge for him, but the other guys, I don't know. I think Martin Truex Jr. in his last season as a full-time driver, disappointment. What do you think? Biggest disappointment?
You know who's probably the most disappointed on that list is probably Brad Keselowski, because they probably felt like they had something to build on from the year before, and it just never really happened. He won a race, which was great at Darlington, but the rest of the season never really happened. So he probably feels the worst. I'm most disappointed in the 54 because I felt like Ty Gibbs had speed to compete in these playoffs. I would have liked to see him make some more rounds.
I think Truex is the guy on that list for me. Right. And the reason it's disappointing is it's his last year and the way that he was eliminated. As a driver, if you speed on pit road and you're not able to make that up and you feel like your whole season's kind of riding on that, to me, just personally for Truex, I say that because Truex has no emotion, but to me, going out the way that it did, that would be hard to accept.
Yeah, and what makes it even worse is Suarez kind of gave them all hope. Like
he dangled the carrot the whole damn time.
He's like, I'm going to run 33rd, so you have a chance. And I think that's what makes it tougher. I will say, we're not supposed to have favorites, but I want to see Truex win. I haven't found anybody that says, one time we'd love to have that, whether it's Jeff Gordon at Martinsville, Tony Stewart won a race. We've had some of the biggest stars with that send-off victory. And, he could easily be a multi-time champ with just a few different pit stops over the course of time. So I would love to see Truex win a race. I hate that he's out of the playoffs, but even though, victory lane would be good.
I go back to what Kyle said, Kyle Busch, when he was here. There was a quote from Martin Truex Jr. post-race where he says, I'm out of here.
After Watkins gone.
And Kyle said, this isn't just him saying, I'm out of here right now. This is him saying, I'm out of here, right? I mean, so you wonder if there's that sentiment moving into the last couple races of the season.
I got to believe that he's going to pull off a win. I just feel like I want to see this guy go out on top with a trophy and everyone be able to celebrate. And it's been a weird season because I feel like we haven't been able to celebrate him exactly how we should celebrate champions and walking Hall of Famers, because he kind of made the announcement mid-season, and then some of that stuff gets sucked up, but the fans deserve that, and so does Martin.
I would give you my perspective from my last year driving. For Truex, now that he's eliminated from the playoffs, I think it all gets a little bit easier. And the only thing that you could relate to at home or sitting here is like as school starts to end, right? When you get to the last couple of weeks of school, all of a sudden you're like, you get a little pep in your step and you're kind of relieved. And I would say he's going to be able to enjoy the fact that he's eliminated now. I hope that he gets a win. I don't know if he can get a win, but yeah, I mean, from a guy that's been a champion and has had so much success and maybe the most likable guy in the garage area right now. Yeah, I hope he gets a win.
I think Harrison Burton on that list, we talk about disappointments, but I think he's the guy that is I think he walks away from this season with his head really held high and go, we overperformed. We weren't supposed to be on this list.
Well, the news came out, so he's not driving for the Wood Brothers next year, but the news was announced at Bristol that he's going to drive full-time in the Xfinity Series. I look at it exactly how you look at it. He's now won a Cup race. He got to experience the playoffs. He's moving down a series. But we've seen some of Hall of Fame drivers who have had to go down to Xfinity, kind of retool, their career. He's so young, early 20s, right? Go retool his career. He could easily end up back racing on Sundays, and I think this year will be very valuable.
How cool was that to be with Jeff Burton up there in the booth?
Oh, it was great, except I thought he was going to kill me with those high fives. They were going left and right.
I hear some Christmas music right now.
I was like, what is going on?
Christmas? I think it's Christmas. I hear jingle bells. That's because we're playing off of something Chase Elliott said about his season and playoffs ending. This was in 2022. Take a listen.
Merry off season and a happy Christmas.
That was when he was saying that to Harvick.
Short and sweet. He was saying what?
He was saying that to Kevin Harvick.
Well, it was after Harvick wrecked.
Yeah, it was after they had that whole back and forth, and he was like
just trying to get off TV is what he was trying to do.
That'd be a solid T-shirt.
All right, let's see what some of these eliminated drivers are doing when there's, Merry Christmas and Happy Off Season. Happy Christmas.
Dang,
he's eating ice cream.
Would you make him smaller than
y'all
he already
just
is?
tied dirty on that one.
From a short guy, that's me.
He's got nothing to say.
Dude, what do you got?
Well, he's a tall guy. He doesn't
I can't relate to that.
That was not. He was with his grandfather, obviously.
Made him like 4.
I did not make that picture. That was.
Sorry,
I don't know.
Ty.
Shannon looks like your handiwork.
Yeah.
Shannon's doing the dirty
That's
Ty.
Shannon.
Ty is spending his off season with the family, eating ice cream. That's how you'll be spending your off season as well. Harrison Burton would be next. Let's take a look at Harrison Burton. How he's working. You mentioned that he's getting ready for an Xfinity Series next year.
I like that little AM racing in the background. That's where he'd be driving for. It could have been walking down the aisle. He's getting married next year too.
Like you bulked him up.
I did not actually do that.
His forearms are not that straight. He has been in the gym. He's looking pretty chesty, but his forearms are not that.
All right, Martin Truex Jr. was going to be doing this. It's definitely on a boat. That's not Martin Truex Jr. Let's move over.
Yeah. See, that's
look how happy he is.
That's actually last week.
He needs a beer in his hand. He's got a fish, racing some RC cars. Yeah, going. He will be in the Daytona 500, however. Cole Pern coming back for a one-off next year.
That'll be interesting.
Brad Keselowski. Let's see what Brad.
Playing basketball?
Oh, boy.
That's not true.
Wow. If you don't get that, you should YouTube Brad dribbling a basketball.
That's right.
Because it's as good of
dribbling.
You're gonna watch.
Dribbling all of it.
Brad.
Whoa!
Brad, I am so sorry.
You think we did Ty Gibbs dirty? What about this?
Look at that agility. I mean,
he is travel.
I feel like there's too many. Oh, I'm not taking part. There's too much low-hanging fruit to pick on me. I'm just gonna.
We love you, Brad. If you saw me trying to dribble basketball, it would be just as bad.
It wouldn't be that bad.
They did you dirty, bro.
It was all Shannon's idea, Brad. It was all Shannon's
not my
idea.
idea.
That'll never die.
Thank you for being here, Jamie McMurray. It was awesome to have you. We'll see you back next week inside the playoffs.